information just in, that the International War Crimes Tribunal at The Hague in the Netherlands has just announced an indictment against Yugoslav leader Slobodan Milosevic, so it is official now, holding him responsible as a war crimes
very serious
criminal.
Offenses committed by these accused to require us to bring these charges at this
among
time.
those warning against letting Mr. Milosevic off the hook.
If the NATO mission is to be successful, if we're going to have an effective peace agreement in the former Yugoslavia, then Mr. Milosevic must be held accountable. This cannot be bargained away.
International relations experts say the indictment could complicate current peace negotiations, though, because it puts Western envoys in the awkward position of having to negotiate with a formally declared war crimes suspect. The Times of London is reporting this today that President Clinton is ready to consider a full-scale land war.
Wouldn't be the first time we've done that, though.
Well, that's true.
We have some creep over there. The Dayton deals we were.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Times of London reporting that the president, Mr. Clinton, is, quote, ready to consider a full-scale land war against Serb forces in Kosovo, sending up to 90,000 combat troops from America if no peace settlement emerges within the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
The report says there's a growing feeling in Washington and London that the alliance must prepare itself for a far larger operation involving 100,000 to 160,000 troops. Military sources tell NBC News the 160,000 figure is overblown, but that General Wesley Clark is ready to commit about 50 to 60,000 troops, and that figure could go up by a few thousand. They do not dispute the urgency, though, of the timetable given considerations about Kosovo's severe weather conditions, saying they got to get this thing done in the next 3 weeks or so. Something has to happen if they're going to get the refugees have any chance of getting 1 million people back inside Kosovo before winter sets in.
You know, Deirdre claims that Wyatt now recognizes me when he watches on television.
You just did it.
What?
That's a good one.
You just
I realize that, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I don't care.
What did you say?
If there's any chance of getting these poor, starving 1 million refugees back in before the winter sets in,
fine.
Sending troops into combat.
And
That's fine. We're moving on to something else now.
Full-blown
I hope we get them back.
war.
Good. I hope
Too late. Too late.
Hope nobody dies in the combat. I hope we get them back.
Let me hear how that sounded. Let me hear if it sounded bad as you think it, as you're suggesting it sounds.
All right.
No, so I just wasn't. Well, I'm thinking about other stuff. Sometimes when you're doing the news, I have the intercom on. I'm talking to Bernie. I'm talking to Lou, getting stuff set up.
Well aware.
I'm looking at stuff. I can't listen all the time, so you may say something. Let me hear it.
Do not dispute the urgency, though, of the timetable given considerations about Kosovo's severe weather conditions, saying they got to get this thing done in the next 3 weeks or so. Something has to happen if they're going to get the refugees have any chance of getting 1 million people back inside Kosovo before winter sets in.
You know, Deirdre claims that Wyatt now recognizes me when he
what's wrong with
watches
that? I don't have any
on
problem with
television. What's wrong with that?
Well, no, it wasn't as extreme as past events have proven, but it was just another one.
Well, Wyatt doesn't watch television, so he's never watched any television. He sees the news occasionally.
Yeah.
If I have it on, we're feeding him or something. But other than that, he watches me sometimes on MSNBC. But other than that, he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't watch videos, and that's not part of the program. So.
In the Imus household.
Right.
So she claims that he. But let me see. Do some news. Let me get her on the phone. We should do this. Go ahead.
President Clinton makes his case to the people of Kosovo. Mr. Clinton's address could be heard today on Radio Free Europe, speaking about plans to return refugees to their homes.
Our military campaign is daily increasing the pressure on the Serbian leadership and on Serbian forces in Kosovo. They know we will persevere until the Serbian forces leave and you are allowed to return home, with NATO there to prevent a return to violence.
Meantime, and officials in Macedonia are trying to figure out why the number of ethnic Albanian refugees arriving out of Kosovo has suddenly slowed to a trickle yet again. They say only about 60 refugees crossed the border yesterday, when more than 6,000 poured in the 4 previous days. NATO continues inflicting damage from the air on Yugoslavia. Anti-aircraft fire resounded in Belgrade early today. Planes roared overhead. NATO launching a record 741 sorties over the past 24 hours. A former president is lashing out at the NATO airstrikes on Yugoslavia as senseless and excessively brutal. Writing in the New York Times this morning, Jimmy Carter says the campaign has become an attack on an entire nation that is hurting civilians and is counterproductive. Accuses the United States and NATO of cutting short peace efforts, and Carter says the alliance has picked the worst possible option.
wasn't sure where I was. It felt so strange to me and wonderful.
Boy, there's going to be one of those guys in the locker room at halftime telling Norv Turner what plays to run in the third quarter. Spells trouble.
Why shouldn't he?
Stay out of the football business.
Why?
Make the hirings and then go away.
Oh, you know, that's idiotic. I wish I had enough money to buy one of these teams and hire somebody like Bill Parcells and bitch slap him around. These players. I mean, that's idiotic. And people like you and Lupica and these other morons thinking owners should stay out of. I mean, that's absurd.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, it is ridiculous.
Put your panties over your head.
I mean, if you or some of these other people should make enough money to buy these teams, and then, or like Lupica and these other people should make enough money to buy these teams, then you could run your mouth about it. If you got enough money to buy one of these teams, you ought to be able to tell them what to do.
You can't be telling a coach
Oh,
what
of course
plays to
you
run.
can.
You know nothing about it.
Why not?
Then you won't have a successful franchise.
Oh,
It's a free country.
get out of here.
Why don't you buy a team then?
Because I don't have enough money.
Sell the ranch.
Sell the ranch. Take kids with cancer to football games. That's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
You're
They'd
an
like
idiot.
that, too.
You're an idiot.
Halftime, you can have all the horses and
Somebody
stuff.
should tell Norv Turner what plays to run that moron. Look what they did last year.
Well, that's a good point.
Norv Turner ought to be fired. That's what ought to happen to
Be
him.
arrested
Yeah, he should be
for
arrested.
embezzling the poor guy's money. into
No,
nothing.
you're unbelievable. Ben, people like Parcells, only people want all this. You know, oh, God. You know what? Well, how much do they want for the Jets? About $500 million?
Approximately.
Yeah.
Well, I know enough people have got some money. God, wouldn't that be great? I'd love it. I'd just love to own them for about a week.
Put together a group.
I'd have Bill Parcells tell me to stay out of the dressing room. I'd fire that fat bastard in about. He'd be out of there in about 8 seconds.
Let's do a fundraiser. We could sell a yard apiece. 50 grand.
Imus in the morning. The Wiz Memorial.
Last week we were all uptight about Saddam Hussein and what was going to happen, and that situation has eased. But last time I heard Washington's on full alert with this guy coming to town. In fact, I understand there's been a no-fly zone declared over the Everett Grill where he's going to be. So this is Washington is on edge. Let me put it that way.
Have you ever seen this man before? No, I didn't.
He is an actor. It looks like Robert Redford, but no, it's not. I know it's not, but if I had to go with a resemblance, who I'd go with?
Diamond. This man is a major, I mean, he's a phenomenon. He's a major media mogul. And Rupert Murdoch better watch out. He's coming on.
I know the man, but I couldn't tell the name.
He's old.
I know speak English. Looks like a rock star to me.
English. Or accent. He's got an accent.
Richard Marx.
No,
It's
gotta be, what's that guy's name? Orrin Hatch.
Yeah, that's it. Orrin Hatch.
No, that looks to me somewhat like a touched-up picture of Clint Eastwood, and looking about as serious. He has a make my day kind of look. He doesn't look like, he has more hair than Peter Arnett, so it's not any report from Baghdad. Wait, that's Don Imus.
Do you know this face? He's like a movie star.
An Irishman involved with the IRA.
Former drug addict.
Hold on, Imus.
Must be one of these conservative, supported by the far-right church people, huh?
Jesus Christ, who is that?
He's got a lot of hair for a guy in his 50s, too. That's great.
Donald Imus. Don Imus.
That's Don? Gosh.
That may not be the most powerful man in media history, but it's the ugliest man in media history.
Every weekday morning, John